Hypothetical thought scenario: comfort, civilization, and what happens when systems fail. Let's walk through a purely hypothetical thought experiment about how modern societies actually function under pressure. Not fantasy, not doom, just a logical chain of events based on common sense about human behavior and how modern infrastructure works. Most people believe modern civilization exists because humans have become more civilized than our ancestors. But that idea isn't really accurate. Humans themselves haven't changed much in thousands of years. What has changed is the environment we built around ourselves. Civilization is essentially a giant buffer system. Food appears in grocery stores without most people thinking about the trucks, warehouses, farms, fuel systems, financial networks, and logistics software that make that possible. Lights turn on when a switch is flipped because enormous power grids, maintenance crews, and generation plants are working constantly behind the scenes. Water comes from the tap because treatment plants, pumps, reservoirs, and monitoring systems operate every minute of every day. Because these systems work so well, people rarely think about them. Comfort becomes normal. And when comfort becomes normal, people start believing that society itself is permanent and unshakable. But the truth is simpler. People are not more civilized than our ancestors. We are simply more comfortable. The systems around us remove the daily pressure of survival. When food is available, water is flowing, power is running, and communication works, most people cooperate with each other and with authorities. Society feels stable because the survival layer is handled automatically. Now, imagine a hypothetical scenario where a major geopolitical conflict begins somewhere in the world, not necessarily involving everyone immediately, but enough to disrupt global systems. The first effects would not look like war movies. The first effects would be systemic disruptions. Shipping routes begin to slow or reroute. Cyber attacks target infrastructure and financial systems. Satellite interference disrupts GPS and communications. Supply chains begin to strain. At first, life looks mostly normal. Stores still have food. Lights still turn on. Phones still work. People watch the news, discuss the situation, and go back to their routines. This phase is stability through momentum. Modern systems are large and resilient, so they don't collapse instantly. They degrade slowly. Next comes the disruption phase. Certain items start disappearing from store shelves. Not everything, just specific goods. Shipping delays increase. Prices begin to rise. Power outages may become more frequent in certain areas as infrastructure is stressed. Government agencies activate continuity plans. Emergency coordination centers begin operating around the clock. Communication between federal, provincial, and municipal systems increases. Military and emergency services quietly reposition resources. From the outside, the average person still sees mostly normal life. But the system is now under pressure. Communities begin reacting in different ways. In small towns and rural areas, people tend to know each other. Informal cooperation networks already exist. Neighbors check on neighbors. Tools and supplies are shared. People adapt faster because self-reliance is already part of daily life. Suburban areas often follow a similar pattern, especially where community ties are strong. Cities behave differently. Cities depend heavily on constant logistics. Food, fuel, and goods are continuously moving into urban areas from outside. Large populations depend on systems functioning precisely and continuously. As long as supply keeps flowing, cities remain stable. If supply slows, stress begins to build. During this period, most people still comply with authority. Even if emergency powers increase or restrictions become stricter, the majority of people cooperate because their basic needs are still being met. Food is still available. Water still runs. Electricity still works most of the time. As long as those remain stable, social order generally holds. But human behavior has a predictable trigger point. Parents. The moment people begin to believe that their children might run out of food, the psychology changes. Up to that point, most individuals will tolerate inconvenience, restrictions, and uncertainty. People can endure a surprising amount of disruption if they believe the system is still functioning and recovery is possible. But fear for family survival changes the equation. At that stage, two paths tend to appear simultaneously. In many communities, cooperation increases. People share resources. Local distribution systems appear. Churches, schools, community centers, and volunteers organize support networks. In other areas, tension rises quickly. Scarcity creates anxiety. Rumors spread. Information becomes unreliable. Panic buying or hoarding begins. Authorities may respond by increasing control measures to stabilize the situation. Curfews, distribution controls, or restricted movement might appear in an attempt to maintain order and protect essential systems. The goal in these situations is not domination but stabilization. Governments know that if food, water, and power systems fail completely, recovery becomes far more difficult. Throughout all of this, one fact remains consistent. Human nature has not changed. The same instincts that drove tribal survival thousands of years ago still exist. Humans protect family first. Communities form alliances. Cooperation exists within trusted groups. Competition appears when survival resources become uncertain. Civilization works because the survival layer is handled by systems. Remove the pressure of survival and people behave cooperatively and constructively. Reintroduce survival pressure and the deeper instincts reappear. That does not mean society automatically collapses. It means the true foundations of society become visible. Food, water, energy, community, trust. Those are the pillars that actually hold civilization together. Everything else sits on top of them. The lesson from this thought experiment is not fear. It is understanding. Civilization is not fragile, but it is not magic either. It functions because millions of people and systems work together constantly to maintain stability. And when challenges appear, societies that maintain cooperation, resilience, and community tend to adapt and recover far better than those that rely only on centralized control. Comfort may be new. Human nature is not.